afternoon, viewers. This is the Business X-Ray Show, and we are glad that you're watching. Now, today we have a very, very interesting story, quite riveting. It's a story of an entrepreneur who has seen opportunity that Uganda has in abundance, and that is the sun. And of course, with it, when we talk about the sun, we're talking energy. And in this particular sense, we're talking about solar energy. So in the studio today, we have a solar entrepreneur. But that is besides the point. The bigger issue is the issues or the model that he has been able to craft out of this opportunity and package it to meet a society or community need. Or you can call it a country need, because we all need power. And when they're teaching us, you know, in commerce classes or business classes, we come to appreciate the fact that actually energy or power is a critical factor of production. But hold on to that thought. At this moment, allow me to introduce, as usual, our resident coach, Charles Ochichi from Enterprise Uganda. Charles, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and I'm glad to be on the show today. Extremely delighted.
Good, great. Now, this show is brought to you by Enterprise Uganda in collaboration with Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Now, the purpose of the show, I need to remind you that so we don't lose, you know, thought or focus on that, is to help and handhold businesses and bring to the fore business principles without appearing to be lecturing or preaching or motivational speaking, but through the experiences of the people who are actually doing the actual work. And that's why in the studio today, we have a gentleman that I've just, you know, hinted on, and I'll let him introduce himself and tell us a bit of what he does.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boji, and thank you for having me at NTV. My name is Frank Neliga, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Money and Uganda. We are in the business of bringing light to communities, to institutions, but not just light, but also power. The essence of that is that most people associate solar with lighting, but solar goes way beyond lighting. In the developed economies, solar is actually powering whole industries. We need to recognize that it is possible for us as well to power our economies. And that said, Annual Energy, the company that I lead, has been doing this for 7 years. We have been able to electrify or support over 10,000 customers. Okay. We have been able to electrify 25 schools and on top of that, 10 hospitals. That is in light of transferring the energy of the sun into households, into institutions.
Beautiful. Just hold on to that thought, Neil. Viewers, we're going to actually see what Neil actually does. We have a little video montage that's going to actually take us there. But before we go there, Charles, it's quite an interesting, you know, moment, you know, in time for this economy, especially now that we're talking about full reopening of the economy. I don't know what could have caught your attention this week.
You've touched a good point. The economy was locked for 2 years. Yeah. We've opened it. We've also opened it with a bang. There's been huge talk about the parish development model. Radios, televisions, gatherings, households have talked about the 1 trillion. The launch was done yesterday. And the message is 1 trillion shillings is going to reach a village through the parish unit. And everybody is saying, this is it. It must create instantaneous change and transformation. But obviously, there are a few things that one must appreciate about this initiative. One, it is centralized on empowering people to transform themselves through business. Now, that calls on one thing. Nobody will buy from that parish villager just because he received money from government. There must be business, there must be an entrepreneur. And amidst all this, there is a centerpiece called the circle, and all the attention is right now on the circle. And the philosophy about the circle, and I want this to be very clear to the listener, is that a circle is owned by the members. It is supposed to be funded by the members, managed by the members, governed by the members. These members here at the same time are supposed to be doing business. If they do not manage these aspects I've just mentioned here, this centerpiece that everybody is focusing on demands so much management, control, and policies and systems that somebody who is not even able to manage 2 chicken or 3 chicken to be owning this thing and managing it, that is where the challenge will lie.
I hear you.
So it's an exciting moment in the country, but it's a moment to put it into perspective and tell people that even banks, as well organized as they are, staff have got contracts, staff have got salaries, staff are monitored with the targets, they still have got a regulator called Bank of Uganda. So as we walk into this route, I want Ugandans to know that the burden of success will begin with and end with them.
I hear you.
But what an opportunity. Because also in the course of the week or 2 weeks or so, we've been hearing horrifying stories of Ugandans heading to the Middle East. After somebody has coordinated in Uganda with a patient in the Middle East for a need for an organ, and then they are saying, get us individuals who have got a health profile and a blood profile that matches our patient somewhere in the Middle East, and please, we want a kidney. And a Ugandan is boarding a plane thinking there's an opportunity abroad. And for many, the opportunities have existed. For quite many, it has been misery. So if we can combine the PDM and this ability for Ugandans to take courage to cross to the unknown, having sold land. You board a plane when you don't know whom you are going to meet. That kind of risk profile in the mind is a mind a nation should tap into to build an entrepreneurial society. And that's why I feel always so great to be in these Sunday afternoon sessions. And the story of Frank today here is yet another piece in what it takes to make Ugandans great within the boundaries of our own Pearl of Africa.
Beautiful. Now, talking about Frank's story, we're going to have a short video montage that's actually going to help us break down Frank's story in business. Just a bit of a digest. And the beauty is that we have him in the studio to give it the context it deserves. And I'm quite sure that you'll pick a lesson or two. So I'll ask my producer to play that as we delve into this discussion.
My name is Frank Neliga. I am a founder and CEO of Money and Uganda. We are a Ugandan-based solar company that supports enterprises, households, and institutions to adopt solar through our solutions that we design, custom make, and install. We've been in business for 7 years and are proud to be Ugandan. So the background to this business, I previously worked for another solar company, one of the pioneer solar companies in Uganda, called Barefoot Power. And during my work at Barefoot, I realized that actually Uganda had a lot of energy poverty. A lot of it I hadn't perceived before, considering I grew up only 3 kilometers from the central business district in Nsambya, present day Mestil Hotel or the Arena Mall, and we were in darkness. This was the Uganda Railways staff quarters. We were in darkness. Now picture that with people who are kilometers away from Kampala. At that time, there were over 5 million people in poverty, energy poverty, and I desired to bring a difference. So we began with youth empowerment programs that we called Community Energy Entrepreneurs. We trained youth to distribute solar systems in the different communities. And out of that, we grew the first solar village in Luwero, Kasozi, and we've grown to over 7 different solar villages around Uganda that started in Luwero. We've had a considerable number of achievements. the principal achievement is that we've sustained a business for 7 years. We know statistically that businesses fail after their first year. Some of them go up to the second year and fail. I have witnessed that in one of my earlier ventures. So being able to have a business going, or a going concern in accounting language for 7 years is a tremendous achievement for us. Number two is that we have been lucky to grow people. We have been fortunate enough to grow people. They say that you grow your business and your business grows you. This is true for us because the people that we started with, we have staff that have worked with us for 3, 4, 5 years, and they are all growing. It is a tremendous achievement for us to witness. It's not just for the people who are staff, it's also for the end users who are now coming back to upgrade their systems from the initial systems they got. Also, another tremendous achievement is that we have partnerships, not only locally, but also international. Imagine international brands that have partnered with us, including the Harvard University, Columbia University, UNCDF under UNDP projects, GIZ NDEV, Stiftag Solar Energy in Germany. It may sound cliche, but the truth is financing for local enterprises especially is still a major challenge. A research done recently by a project under UNEP discovered that only 5%, that is less than 10% of all investment that comes into the country or in the energy sector, Africa at large, goes to local enterprises. How are you supposed to run a business or to grow and scale a business without financing? That still remains the biggest challenge. We may be investment ready, many enterprises might be investment ready, but for some reason we are not attracting or unlocking as much financing as our more internationally based companies do. And that needs to change. We also know that green financing is a new topic recently, but local banks do not understand our businesses to be able to open their wallets to us. That is a big hindrance towards our growth as a business. But the backbone of all the challenges remains money. Money makes money. If you don't have financing to run your business, you're crawling most of the time. I think our biggest opportunity in overcoming the challenges has been in our social capital. I cannot stress this enough. The quality of friends that we've had or we have as a company, that we have as founders of the company, have helped us to overcome most of the challenges we faced in the past, including financing, where banks could not come in to finance us. Friends have come in to support our initiatives in different ways. And that speaks a lot to how we can overcome challenges in a community versus thinking individually. And so we've gone beyond the friends and grown partnerships that have supported us throughout different initiatives. For example, last year, as the company tried to recover from COVID-19, we got support from GIZ to undertake the development of our next strategic plan. We couldn't have done this out of our own resources, even though we desired very much. GIZ knew this, and they came forward to support us. That is an example of overcoming a challenge through a partnership or a friendship versus relying on your own energies. And that has been the journey, our story, throughout the 7 years of existence. Our future plans is to build, over the next 3 to 5 years, a brand that will be recognizable among the top 5 solar enterprises in Uganda. We want to be the next Davis and Shatliff of energy, solar energy, a local company at that. We want to be the next Tesla, not only in Uganda but East Africa. For that, it's going to take a lot of resilience, a lot of mental strength and stamina to achieve, but we are ready for it. We've been, in a way, exercising the last 7 years, building up momentum to do this, so we're ready for it.
I hope viewers you have a brief about who Frank Niliga is and what he really does. For those that are just joining us, today we have a solar entrepreneur on the Business X-Ray, and he's sharing with us his story, how he has been able to build his business. Of course, we're yet to get to know more about where he came from to be where he is today, and the principles he respected or had to hold at heart to travel or move the journey that he has moved so far. Charles, what are your quick thoughts about Frank's submission before we come back to him?
Let me just make one that is so interesting, and for many Ugandans, it's something that they should pick a leaf from. The fellow was employed in a solar company. So instead of pretending to say that I let him report at 8 o'clock and be there up to 5 o'clock and go home, he takes interest way beyond the purpose of going to get a salary.
Yeah.
Because he took so much interest in the business, he acquired knowledge on how the business operates. And I also feel Frank, as he was looking at this enterprise that employed him, he learned on how the business was managed. And my message to the people who are in jobs is this: please, beyond looking for that salary check in that job, appreciate the way that business operates, the technical aspects, the aspects of serving a customer, the aspects of managing that enterprise. Unemployment should never be viewed from the point of view of a salary check size.
Absolutely.
This is this man's entry point. From employment to doing exactly a similar thing. And I want to add this: the job where you are working is serving in a sector. It's not just, it doesn't represent the entire sector. The sector is a much bigger space. You can go and be in the same sector and still be together with your former employer.
And it becomes part of your network.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Frank, I'm sure a number of our viewers are looking at you and they're like, where is Frank from? What kind of training did he get? What kind of education did you get to be sitting where you're sitting today? Because many a time we tend to get boxed into the sectors or areas where we have the word is expertise. And expertise is normally drawn from the education we have.
Yes, right. The papers you qualified with.
Just speak to that.
Well, for starters, we live in a society that demonizes failure, and it's a very dangerous thing, okay? I could have been a TV personality just like you, because when I was in secondary school, this is what I enjoyed doing, right? I used to read news at the school assembly, and I was thinking, this is my next thing. It didn't turn out like that, because I chose psychology instead of mass communication when we joined university. So I studied psychology, and after university, I actually started up an NGO that was offering career guidance in schools. And it was out of that career guidance in schools that I discovered teachers were part of the problem, because they were not reading beyond what they're given to teach in the syllabus. I thought, why don't we come up with a program that can encourage teachers to read extra, to empower themselves extra? And the first challenge we saw, especially in rural schools, was lighting. So I wrote a proposal at that stage to partner with my previous employer to distribute solar lights to teachers. And that was the beginning of my journey in solar, discovering how solar can be transformative, and not just at the individual level, but at the community level. So my background is really psychology, it's not true that I am out of the field entirely, because I mean every day of my life I'm practicing psychology in how I relate to people and how I enjoy building relations, right?
I hear you.
But it's not at the level of a psychiatrist that reads, or as people think, reads people's minds, right? I am in the community psychology zone, where I actually support economies, communities to be empowered to be the best they can be.
Beautiful.
And that is my background, not engineering like some people call me, because I have clients that call me Engineer Frank. It's really experience, now 12 years in the sector, solar sector. It's really experience, acquired experience.
I hear you. So tell us, so you make your first leap into this sector. You train as a psychologist.
Right.
And then, yes, you write your proposal. Because writing a proposal is one thing.
Right.
We've seen many people writing these proposals and staying at a proposal writing level.
Right.
Or if anything, those that transition, they are very comfortable in the NGO world.
Right.
Now, because I'm looking at two things here. We have very good proposal writers.
Yes.
But we struggle to get very good business plan writers.
Right.
I don't know whether I'm communicating. So you made that transition at a certain point. How do you then now start to look at this as an entrepreneur, as a business person, beyond just, you know, getting it off proposal writing, you know, the NGO kind of element, and saying, because that now speaks sustainability.
Thank you for that question. When you think about life, it is possible for you to limit yourself to only the things you have done. And that is where what I mentioned, demonizing failure, comes in. You're expected to start earning soon as you leave university.
Yeah.
But because of the nature of our society, people start to look for jobs, not to look for opportunity to skill themselves. And where I find the opportunity to jump into this started way back in 2007 or 2006, when I did, I think it was called the best training back then, Mr. Chichi.
Yes, that's correct. And it's still the same title
Still
we give it.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did it at UMA, a
Correct.
huge hall.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was fresh out of university. This was me thinking, I need to start up something. So my first startups, about 3 of them, actually failed. Okay. I was among the first to do a fruit business in Kampala. Fruits. There's fruits you see on the street, but I was distributing them in banks. So I was a little bit higher than what we're doing today. Then I did paper bags. Remember after
the Kavera ban or something? Yes,
there was a Kavera ban when the Queen, we had, what did we call this? Chogam. Thank you very much. There was a Kavera ban. I went in there. I started doing paper bags, distributing to multiple restaurants, thinking this is going to grow. You know, it failed. I mean, you know, when the Queen left, we went back to our usual Kavera economy. Then I wanted to set up the next Aristoc.
Okay.
I went to Mukono and I saw opportunity. Mukono University was just starting, and when I looked at Makerere, we had lots of business opportunity around Wandegear because of the university. So I went to Mukono, set up a shop, brought beautiful gifts, novels, and tried to set up beautifully, thinking 10 years later this is going to be the next Aristoc. It also failed after 2.5 years. So, you know. So when I get into the solar space, the guys who hired me asked me to make this project work. They gave me one of their biggest accounts, key accounts, to manage. I did for the period I was in the company. It would grow exponentially. But it wasn't at the level that spoke to my adrenaline. I felt we could do more. The opportunity is bigger. And in a way, when you think about it, I was trying not to compete with my company, but to give it the best value. So the proposal turning into a business plan was for me a way of fulfilling my potential in delivering a service to the community.
Beautiful.
And I I want to think that I did well in that because of the trainings I had received before, which is skilling myself. I received the best training before I did any kind of work.
Yeah.
When I joined the company, they had a training in entrepreneurship. I later became the training coordinator for the company for micro franchises. So I was training franchises around the country on how to start, manage, and run the business. We had several successful ones in different corners of the country. So I was really invested 120% in seeing the success of the company.
I hear you.
And that is how I really got sucked into delivering business plans. I should mention the biggest failure of any book written is a business plan, Mr. Chichi.
Explain that.
Banks, banks, investors, everyone asks you for a business plan.
Yeah.
There is no single company in the world that has ever written a business plan that they follow 3 months, 6 months, 1 year down the road. Zero. Because the challenges,
Yes.
the reality of doing business, what is written on paper is only to help inspire you.
Yes.
Is only to help guide you. But in reality, what happens in the field is your gut feeling, is your instinct, is your pulse on the economy. So how you live the values that you wrote in the business plan is more important than the values existing in a business plan. Because the truth is, at one point, someone could offer you a deal that could change your life. But the values you wrote in the business plan, if you go against them and go after that deal, your business dies. Right? So, in essence, my statement regarding business plans not being dead on the table where they are written, is in the sense that it is not a living document unless you, the entrepreneur, live the values and the principles you wrote
I hear you.
in the business plan.
In other words, it has to be, it's like the, you know, today is Sunday. And remember the words of Apostle Paul in Corinthians. That the temple of God is in your heart.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's not in that building.
Correct.
And the business plan, given the fact that, in fact, some people prefer to call it your GPS.
Yeah.
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 It doesn't show you what is exactly happening in the direction where you headed.
Yeah.
But it at least points you to where the direction is.
Right.
Charles, I don't know what you can say to that.
He makes very interesting submissions, and I want to pick 2 or 3 of them. One of them is that concentrate on looking for opportunity to acquire skill as opposed to just having a job. You could be given a contract by your relative, by your whoever, and be given a title. If you do not begin to start acquiring skills, and this is skills that deliver solutions.
Right.
True.
The moment you are focused in getting skills, jobs begin to flow your way.
Absolutely.
Reverse the equation.
Yes.
Right.
As you go and do anything, and that speaks to a lot of young people who are watching this program, that please, even when you have not been given an interview, not given a formal appointment, there's opportunity always to acquire skill by doing something. And to me, that is within your control, and you can start doing that the next day. At home, in a neighborhood, wherever you are, it can be done. He also goes on and talks about failure. Something that tends to make people fear to get started in business. And failure is where everybody is good at giving marks.
Right.
You said, you're going to do this. What has happened?
Everyone is a critic.
We knew you're going to fail.
Absolutely.
Now, because you are always conscious that at the sidelines, people are watching and trying to see whether I will make it. What do? You hesitate. You prevaricate. You delay. You think about it. You write a document, and that's where the document called business plan begins to become your hiding point. I'm still writing my document. I'm still completing my business plan. Because you want this document to appear like some genetic instrument that somehow comes to infuse your blood and everything else to get you moving. In effect, a business plan document, even if you got the best And believe me, you can get the best from social media, from YouTube, from
the templates.
Uncle Google.
Uncle Google.
You know, you can get it.
Yes.
The next day you read it. It's a great document. Has it created anything? Nothing. A business plan that is accompanied with energy, that says tomorrow I'm going to be doing this. In other words, action. Without action, or that document pushing you into action, forget the document. Because action is equal to two things: results plus wisdom. If the document is so good and there is no action taken, you won't see the results. They may be negative, they may be positive.
Right.
And whatever the results, there's always something that you'll benefit from, the wisdom of having done it. The fellow failed 3 times. There were wisdoms he was speaking from there. You go for paper because, you know, the queen is coming, we put a temporary law, the law is thrown away within a month, they leave you in the middle of the road. Now you keep on struggling and say, paper is really good, it is good for environment, everybody is carrying Kavera. And the law has failed to stop anybody doing it. For how long will you be on that journey and make money? Because in business, we will not give you our money out of sympathy. We give you money, 1, for value for money. And 2, you must outcompete the next person trying to take my money.
Right. Very good.
So very interesting submissions.
Very powerful indeed. Now, Frank, let me come back to you. You know, in the video, we're seeing you interacting with these communities, with people at the grassroots. So you move away, you know, after that, should I call it a hard start? You move into solar. Now, give us the kind of mindset, even before we go to the communities, that you entered this business with. You know, having worked, what were you, you know, when you sat down, because every businessman who is really looking at building something sustainable is looking at giving something new, something different from what is available. What was going into your mind, and what kind of company do you want to establish? And is it what you thought it should be?
Mr. Boji, interestingly, I did mention earlier about a business plan, and I did write an excellent business plan. What I wrote probably 7.5 years ago is what we're going to start doing now. That is how probably nasty you could say life is. But life doesn't reward people for just writing or thinking. Life rewards people for acting, like Mr. Chichi said.
That's right.
So as I went into, for starters, a lot of the people I worked with when my previous company were not happy with the idea that I was leaving. Or were not even encouraging of the idea for me to leave the job.
You were their star performer.
Well, not exactly star performer, but in any case, I had some value I was delivering to the company.
I hear you.
My wife was very supportive in telling me, whatever you decide to do, I'll support you. Okay? So my mind was, it is either now or never. The business plan I wrote was to do commercial and institutional solar. Okay? Back 7.5 years ago. When I started the business, my first customer gave me business for households without capital. All that they gave me was a down payment for what they required, and I had to hustle through. This was a confirmation of the step I had taken. There is an actual paying customer. I either fail the customer and fail myself, or I deliver value for the customer and ensure my path to success. The communities that we served were only a confirmation. Every customer, every community we went to and worked with was a confirmation of the idea, because there are other players in the market. How is it possible that a company that is not known is able to find a market at zero marketing budget, right? The mindset was now or never. So every little thing we did from the onset is now or never. And I'm happy to note that a lot of the staff we got in the initial days had the same mentality. There was a bit of training. Again, that's where the psychology comes in. There was a bit of training, you know, mentorship, counseling to help them, you know, stay focused, stay on track. But the mindset had to be it's now or never. And I think it is largely the reason why they have worked with the company more than 3 years, because they are part of the journey. They are part of the marathon, not a race to come and pick the check and move out. And so we built values from the onset that empowered the customer more than it empowered us. Our value delivery was only to empower the customer. The customer was king from the onset. So we built value of the products we are delivering to them, the service we are giving to them, exceptional service we are giving to them, and that mindset helped us to retain 95% of the customers. And out of customer retention came, you know, business growth. More sales because there are referrals that are coming from, you know, different customers. A lot of the business we do actually is from referral. That is because we deliver value to the customer, not just the product, but also the quality of the service.
I get you.
Yep.
I hear you. Now, one of the challenges for most businesses, especially at the start, is, of course, you have this grand idea, but then getting the right people becomes a challenge. People who are reading, you know, from the same script as you do. Of course, you talked about training, and there's something you mentioned about, you know, your interaction with Enterprise Uganda. I don't know, when does it now, you know, come into play as you now start to build, you know, this entity?
Thank you. It's important to note that a lot of the skills we picked up, I probably didn't mention it, but I did the second training with Enterprise Uganda, what is called ETW, I think.
Correct, yeah. Entrepreneurship Training Workshop. It's an international product.
Yes, from some UN, UNACT.
Yes, UNCTAD.
UNCTAD, thank you.
Yeah.
So I did that training June, I think, 2014, and it was the catalyst that made me say, it's now or never, you know. It's now or never. I served my company a 3 months notice in September because I was that pumped up, thanks to Mr. Chichi. But the principles, the very first one that I remember, Mr. Chichi, if you do not have a track record, if you do not have a record of your expenditure and revenues, you're dead. Yeah. You need to keep a pulse on where your money is going. So from the onset, I desired to have an accountant. Unfortunately, the first accountant I hired was a friend of mine. I hired them, I think, in January 2015. I could not sustain them. They left me at the end of March. So I kept putting receipts for fuel and all these expenses in files, in khaki envelopes for a period of time, because all I knew was keep the records. I'm not an accountant, you know, so I couldn't do this. In any case, even when I left my previous employers, I did not have skill sets at Excel, for example. Okay. These I acquired on the job. I can interpret and deal with Excels now better than some people, okay, because of on-job training. But what actually happened was the next person I hired or that came on board in the company was an intern from the university. And they said, oh, I have skills in basic accounting. I was like, super, here's an envelope full of receipts. And she did a fantastic job of getting them together. Back end, I was developing, I was writing proposals to potential partners. So there's this German partner that I gotten connected to about 5th of January 2015 that I was in conversation with almost every week. The goal was to get him to support this project in Uganda. One of his key questions around July was, do you have an accountant? So back end, I was working with an accountant who was working for another firm, okay, to support me to generate these papers that he eventually viewed. But I didn't have them in-house. And all this is coming to where does it tie to the formal training? The moment I told this guy I do not have an accountant, but I do have someone supporting, and we are intending to bring QuickBooks, to install QuickBooks to have us doing this stuff professionally, he made the decision to support us. In essence, professionalizing the business from the onset won us partnerships that we could never have won if we had remained an informal business. We were fully registered, incorporated as a business. We had, like I mentioned, the business plan already in place. You know, whether it was working or not is another story. We had these nice proposals, and of course riding on my 5 years experience in the previous business, and the partners was thinking, okay, let's give this guy a try. But before we give him a try, does he actually have
ABCD.
ABCD in place? The very first one was, do you have an accounting software? Do you have an accountant? Because it's one thing to give you money, it's another for you to actually manage the money.
Great.
And that is what ties into the beautiful training that we received from ETW, Enterprise Uganda, several years ago.
Beautiful. Now, viewers, we're going to take a very short commercial break. Now, when we return, we're going to, pick it from Frank to find out how big his business is today, the kind of impact it has done, in the communities. We've gotten a bit of a feel of that, and then Charles will be putting that in context for us after this break.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome back. It's the Business X-Ray Show. Today, this afternoon, we are talking solar, but most importantly, we're talking business principles. From the experience of an entrepreneur, that's Frank Bill Yiga, is a solar entrepreneur and has a very interesting story to tell. Now, Frank, before we went for the break, you were, of course, sharing with us about, how you now start to have your numbers, right?
Right.
Or put your ducks in line in that particular area. So, you've now ticked those boxes. I'm sure some of the viewers watching us are looking at you and they're saying, okay, we've had that. Where is this operation now? What are you doing, and how big are they? How much have you impacted the communities? Where are you operating at this particular moment, before I bring in Charles?
And somebody might even be saying, you know what if I want to stick with hydro? What do you want to tell me about my solar again? You are just saying favoring environment.
Yes.
I'm concerned about saving my costs. Marrying that conversation.
Wow. Thank you for both brilliant questions. I'll start with the first, Mr. Boji. We've been, I mentioned a little bit earlier, we've been in the sector 7 years as a business. We've impacted we have delivered services to 10,000 customers. That is 10,000 people believing in us. It is not a mean feat.
Wow.
We have impacted 100,000 people. When you put all that together, the number of people we've served, and the schools and hospitals and the like, the jobs created, 100,000 people impacted. We are in over 55 districts around the country without having multiple branches. Our headquarters is in Kampala, in Chisasi, Bahai Road. We had the branch network before, pre-2019, that was loss-making in a way. And we had to close it and rethink the approach. We have 3 segments where we serve our customers. The household segment, which is the biggest, basing on the electrification level of the country. The commercial segment, where we deal with enterprises, what the market currently call productive use solar. Mr. Chichi mentioned earlier in the parish development model, supporting households to have incomes. We already support that through our commercial segment. The industry calls it productive use. I'll probably talk about that later. And then the third segment is institutional solar, where we provide solutions for schools and hospitals. Now, a lot of that work has been delivered by the staff in the company and agents we have trained in the field. And that is how we're able to be in multiple districts without necessarily having a physical presence. Talking about solar and hydro, the truth is Uganda, being right at the equator, has more exposure to the sun, what the solar engineers would call irradiation, than many other countries in the world. That places us as Uganda at center stage to harvest as much as possible from the sun. If we are able to store this energy of the sun, I'll give a little analogy. When it rains, like it did a few days ago, and you have your nice gutters on your roof and the tank, you're able to harvest this rainwater to support you 3-4 months in the future without relying on national water. National water delivers you a bill. This is no misadvertisement for national water, but I'm giving the reality of
tapping on the ground. Water is being wasted.
Yes, you're stating facts.
Right.
Yeah.
So you harvest the rainwater and use it for the next 3 to 5 months. This water is not giving you any bill. The only bill that it gave you was you putting your roof, your gutters, and the water tank. The same happens to solar. The sun is out there every day. You get your hanky to take away the sweat because of the sun. You're in your car, you need AC because of the sun. Also, you dry your plants because of the sun. How about also harvesting this sun to give you light, to give you power in your house when it is gone at night? Beyond that, how many of us, let me put it this way. One of the saddest incidents of COVID happened at Mulago, where a power cut actually took out the oxygen plant and lots of people lost their lives. You guys in the news might remember that. Such critical elements of life, be it production, be it health, be it education, be it your own household, should not be left at the mercy of an unreliable grid. What if you have your own generated energy that powers your household, that powers your industry, powers your school, your hospital? It is possible with the energy of the sun. All you need is to have a reliable and trusted engineer do for you an energy assessment and design for you a system. What we currently, or what we've been having, and the Solar Association in Uganda is working very, very hard to work against it. We also had kamufus in solar. People who worked for Umeme or have a little bit of electrical education at a, let's say, certificate level, who would buy a solar panel, a battery, put it together, get the light working. But in truth, it has not been designed to offer certain hours of work for your household or your business. So the system fails within 3 days or 3 months, and you're like, to hell with solar. But a properly designed system factors in how much energy your appliances are taking, how many hours you're using it for, how much stored energy you need to make those appliances work. That's the back-end principle. So in that principle, basing off that principle, you are able to make solar your primary power source and hydro as a backup. And we are doing this in different institutions.
Okay. Now I'm looking at someone.
Brilliant.
I'm looking at a household, and I think that you've answered.
Right.
But I'm looking at a business person, a business operation,
Right.
a processor or something like that.
Right.
Just speak to that as well.
Thank you. There is a concept that now we call captive energy. Captive energy, the Germans have made it popular. The Chinese are expounding on the idea. You are able to power your appliances in real time as the sun shines, because the panels have capacity to attract the sun rays and generate power from that. You put an inverter. An inverter is what is going to turn the direct current coming from the sun and captured by the panel turn it into alternative energy. So Serena, as we speak, we could put panels all over the roof of this conference center, and NTV should be able to run daytime off the energy of the sun. That is because of the technology now, or the term called captive power. Okay. So industries, you've seen JESA, I think has been worked on by a solar company called Equator Solar, is able to generate energy to use on its milk production line, okay, because of tapping the energy of the sun. This is possible at scale. This is possible at scale. Long ago, we were only relying on stored energy through batteries. The technology has improved, has grown leaps and bounds. We're able to actually use that energy in real time. And whatever is left is only used for the night time. And that is where the capability to use umeme as a backup comes in.
Great. Charles, I mean, listening to that, you wonder whether we're just lazy to finding out new things, because I mean, you'll hear...
Mr. Boji, allow me pitch in a little bit there.
Please.
We may not be lazy. Mm-hmm. We are simply not ready.
Okay.
Explain that one.
This technology has existed for a while. More developed countries have been using it. What I mean by we are not ready is, even when someone gives you a great idea, where have you done it before? Is the question. You're not ready. When you're on the street and you're hungry and you want to eat something, you're like, get me the
Rolex
jackfruit, Rolex, water. You're not going to ask, who else have you served today? No. You simply want to cure this need, this urge, hunger, or thirst. You get a mineral water bottle regardless of the brand. You get the Rolex regardless of which flour was used to make the Rolex, because you're ready.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
This decision to adopt solar is, we are not ready.
Yes.
Please.
3 key learnings that I pick from, no wonder you're called Engineer Iga. You know, when you listen to Frank speak,
yes,
you will never hesitate to call him the engineer of solar power in the country. And that takes me to underscore one important point about a business person. You know, in one of the 7 principles that we teach in getting a business mindset, one of them is remain a learner.
Right.
The fellow is looking at the customer daily, is looking at the technology daily, is looking at the features that favor the technology daily, is able to communicate it and communicate it very convincingly. So really, one of those features that I feel Ugandans need to appreciate as you walk into the path of entrepreneurship is for you to be trusted, be technically competent, and have a character that has a heart to serve the customer. We call those the 2 C's. Trust is an amalgamation of the 2 C's, competence and character. Deliver for me the solution, but have me at your heart as you deliver the solution by saying, I want to come and see what your needs are. I want to give you what will function. You tell me, please, bring this and this and this, and you want it to cover all the classrooms. It won't work.
Right.
But if you want it, you now put this partly for the classrooms, the other side hydro, until you are ready to do the initial investment for solar power. So that's a very key point, the power and the ability to speak your sector with authority. Your training background notwithstanding. And please, education we're talking about here is just to prepare us to be ready for the world of work.
Absolutely.
And which route you take after that, it's all open space.
Right.
So as the man says, even as he's now speaking solar, behind that brain is also a psychologist. He can also do some of those psychiatric kind of things much better than an ordinary person who has not gone through that training.
That's right.
But he also makes another important point that I didn't want the viewers to lose, the point about a business plan. His business plan was for schools and other institutions like clinics, hospitals. That was the business plan. A customer comes and bang, breaks him right down to a household. In other words, as a business person, whereas your aspirations may be at a certain level, please be ready to start where you are with what you have. An opportunity came with a good partner, but was taking him to serve a villager. He would have just said, no, that's not what I'm waiting for. And there are many educated fellows, people in salaries, who are still waiting for that beautiful final house or apartments to build. You could have made simple apartments with no tiles or basic tiles, and you would be having tenants. But it's still waiting for this grand, beautiful thing, and the waiting is forever. But he says, as he now progressed, with his experience, with his networks, he's now able to start serving the institutional clients. The business plan is now making sense. What does that speak about a business plan? It is only a guide, but let it adjust to reflect where you are. And as you grow, let the business plan still be your parameter to start telling you, by the way, now you can get here. The other point is the issue of record keeping. He referred to the June 2014. You see how he remembers the dates of the training? Because a training that impacts tends to stick in your mind.
It's imprinted, yeah.
It becomes a turning point. For him, June 2014 remains etched in his brain. In that training, there was a trait out of 10 that was referred information seeking, backed by record keeping. Now, he later discovered this thing is such a fundamental thing, and to redefine his direction. The Germans isolated him out of the crowd and said, this man is organized. We are hearing what he's saying, but the records are confirming it beautifully. So now, many of us believe records are only needed by banks. Records are needed for registration purposes. Records are needed by URA. You are the first person to make the best out of your records. And it is through these records, that's where you are able now to say, what margins do I get from the households? What margins do I get from institutions? What do I need to start getting into the institutional business line? And these are key learnings that I thought our viewers needed to pick from a IGA. And the other thing I want to really put across is this. These sessions we bring here on Sundays are not just to fill your afternoon on Sunday. They're also here to tell you that if you have had problems about people connecting you to a solar energy, there are now Ugandans you can pick on and say, this fellow here seemed to look like I could believe in him. It gives you opportunity to select that Ugandans who can actually do things the way they ought to do.
Absolutely. Now, Charles, on records, still, I really didn't want you to leave that point without talking about, one of the issues that I think came in earlier. It's one thing to keep records, and another actually to make use of those records.
Correct.
I don't know what you can say about that, briefly, before you come back.
Yeah, very, very important indeed. You've heard of the word QuickBooks, Excel sheet. I can produce my balance sheet. I have my income statement. For me, the records are done on a daily basis. There are three things that make records develop a life of their own. Number one, they must be accurate and comprehensive. Whatever you are looking at, does it represent all the sales of the day? If they are, that's already a good point. You have done well. So they are accurate, they are comprehensive. They must also be very current. The one of them must be exactly that. But thirdly, you must analyze them. That is where it becomes tedious and sometimes unpalatable. Because taking 40 minutes looking at papers on what has taken place is not as exciting as talking to somebody who is now shipping the next equipment. Or a customer who is saying, when are you loading my items? But here you are looking 60 minutes on postmortem on what took place. But it is in there, in the analysis, when you discover that certain lines are more profitable than the others. Certain staff seem to be more organized than the others. Losses seem to be taking place in a particular transaction than the others. Analysis brings out all that. If you don't do analysis, these first two things I mentioned are useless. But fourthly, you've done the analysis. Information has come through and speaking. It's you to action that information. Remember what I said? Action is equal to results plus wisdom or skills.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't follow all those 4, your records are useless, no matter how educated the person who assembled that paperwork.
I get you. I think that point has sunk quite well.
Yeah.
Frank, coming back to you, of course, when you mention, because there's a very, very important aspect that I see in your story, and I think we captured a bit of it in the theme, partnerships. And I know these don't come on a silver platter. You work, you prepare yourself for them, you work to retain them and serve them. So to an entrepreneur, a business person, a young man listening, and even those that have been in business for a while, I don't know what kind of counsel you can give them out of your experience, you know, in actually building, because when you mentioned GIZ, when you mention, you know, some of these...
Columbia University all the way coming with interns here.
Some of us start to look at you like we are watching a movie and that kind of thing. So how did you get, you know, to that point? What does it take?
Mr. Boji, that question has been asked of us from the word go, when we are born. When you give birth to a child, you immediately start to seek value from them. A parent smiles for a child, looking to see if the child is going to respond. We are asked for value from the day we are born. Unfortunately, maybe because of our socialization, maybe because of our education, we stop to give value and become parrots and become robots. Even robots provide value, by the way.
Yeah.
We are distinct as human beings. We are distinct as enterprises. And each enterprise that is able to communicate value is able to attract value. Is able to attract partners. So the partnerships we've been able to get have come out of a result of demonstrating that we are trusted local partners. There is a forest of companies doing solar energy in Uganda. There are lots of internationally based companies also doing business in Uganda. Yeah. For you to be able to stand out as a local enterprise, it has to come from your capacity to deliver value for the partners interested in an aspect. And it comes from you understanding yourself as an entrepreneur, or understanding yourself as a company, your identity, that then you communicate to the world. That this is what I stand for. If you partner with us, this is what we will be able to deliver for you, given your interest in the field. So the key word here is value. You build value, you attract value.
I get you. Beautiful. Thank you. Charles, maybe before I bring you in, I have quite a number of questions coming in from the viewers. I was just trying to go through them. So we'll spare a bit of time to look at that. But I know, I mean, it definitely hasn't been a smooth ride for you.
No.
There have been a few challenges here and there. If you can just briefly share with us some of those challenges and how you've managed, you know, to sail through.
Did you say sail through?
Well, I hope I chose the right word.
The truth is it's not sailing through, but probably in proper English it is the right term.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge, and I think it applies to many entrepreneurs out there, all aspiring entrepreneurs out there, is the fear of failure. It is the single biggest reason why Uganda is regarded as one of the most entrepreneurial countries in the world, yet we are lagging behind in terms of the quality and size of the enterprises we see in the country. Nigeria is beating us hands down, South Africa, Kenya, right here in the neighborhood, right? Because we fear to start, we fear to engage. Even intrapreneurs in enterprises that could bring a change in enterprise, in a workplace, think, let me protect my job first, because my idea could fail.
Yeah.
Because the bosses demonize failure in the same workplace. I brought an idea, it didn't work out. Please support me to learn from it. Instead, you're fired. You remember the famous Trump show, you're fired, you know?
Yes.
I think we need to change our mindset to support people to come out with these brilliant ideas. That is, I think, the single biggest challenge. You see it as an entrepreneur. You see it as an entrepreneur seeking finance from a bank because your idea is going to fail. You see it from the people you hire. They come in shaking. They can't tell you to your face that this is not working, you know, because they fear you're going to fire them. You see it from your customers because they have been mistreated before, hoodwinked before. They can't trust you to take on your products, right? That is a big sickness.
I get you.
And a big challenge. The second challenge, as normal, I think I mentioned it before, it sounds cliche, it is the truth. We do not have adequate access to finance, especially finance that meets you at the level where you're at.
Yeah.
It is one thing for a business to be seeking 100 million in financing, 250, $1 billion in financing, but there are enterprises that are just looking for, you will be surprised, 5 million, 10 million. This is meeting finance that meets you right where you are.
Yeah.
You could even drop it, let's go to the parish development model, as low as 50,000. Someone wants to set up a Rolex stall. As low as 250,000. Someone wants to start with 3, 4, 5 goats. You understand? This is finance that meets you right where you are. But access to financing is pegged to so much that is not verifiable. Maybe because the bankers understand their field better than we do, and they don't also understand our field as well as we do. So that mismatch, a friend of mine normally likes to use the word, investors come to ask you, are you investment ready? But are the investors ready to invest, or investee ready?
That's a good one. And indeed, that's why we have partly this show. The Business X Ratio is actually here as a platform as well, where entrepreneurs can actually share that with potential financiers. And I'm sure there are a number of people in the banking industry watching. We've had a couple of them here as well. Gentlemen, I want us to look at the questions because many have come through, and I think it's time we started unpacking those. I have Polycarp. Polycarp I sent a message, is from NTV. Now talking about self-reliance on solar. He's saying we are running a restaurant, but your cap bills, especially on frying chips, are really huge. Is there a way you can solve their challenge? There's a bit of whatever, but that's what he's saying.
Polycarp, the answer is yes, we can solve your challenge. There are technologies currently being tested for, especially in pressure cooking. You know that a lot of what we cook in Africa, cereals, which take a long time to be cooked. So the technology is in advanced stages of being tested. Beyond required budget etc., the first question is to understand what your energy capacity is for us to know whether we can provide a solution or not. Nevertheless, I am truthful always to tell you it is possible or not possible.
Great. Now,
how can they reach him? How can
and actually you will have to share your number because I have about 10 people asking about that as well. Yes. But I think you can do that as we towards the end probably. So I have someone again is saying, how can solar run a maize or rice mill too? On rough estimate, how much would it cost?
Solar, yes, does run a maize mill. We've seen a few examples, again, in the segment that we called productive use.
Yes.
We are not currently an expert in that area for maize mill, and I'll not quote a price for a product we are not selling. But I know that the technology is available. I think the first company that comes to mind is Power Trust, that was doing maize milling as a project for UNCDF. So in answer to the question, yes, solar can do maize milling.
It can do both. Okay. Then I have someone here asking about the reliability of solar, like to power a household. So he's saying roughly a system that can sustain basic appliances. One, is it possible? And then two, what kind of estimate are we looking at in terms of price?
It is possible, yes, a very huge yes. It is possible to run basic appliances in a household based on solar. And it is possible to even make solar your 100% power source. The budget is between 4 to 15 million shillings.
Okay.
I'm specific to quote the word, the number 4, because someone could talk of basic appliances and you're just talking about a 14 or 32-inch screen, a laptop, and maybe a small freezer.
And the lighting.
And the lighting. But some homes are a little bit more sophisticated. They'll have 150, 250 liter fridges, 50, before we go to the gym, 50 plasma screens and, you know, multiple televisions in the home, so the bill could start to stretch, okay? But I will go back to what I mentioned before. Okay. It is important to verify the power consumption of each appliance. Design according to the hours of usage and come out with a quotation. If I approach it from just the element of this is the solution, this is the price, it takes away your individual needs as a household, and that is what we speak to a lot. We want to customize for you, and I've given a range of 4 to 15, but it could be more.
I hear you. Now I have Rujuna. Rujuna says he has a betting company with over 60 laptops, ad slotting machines, and 4 TVs. Can solar handle them?
Absolutely. Let him just get in touch with us. I'll send our engineer wherever they are, do an assessment, and we discuss details after that.
Great. Now someone here is asking whether you've actually had, you know, an interaction with government to like scale this to ensure that people have an option of solar as a source of power. I'm trying to paraphrase the information he did. This is Dennis K.
The best, thank you, Dennis. The best interaction we've had with government is through Ministry of Energy. You've worked closely with Ministry of Energy on some projects that are supported through our industry association called the Uganda Solar Energy Association. Currently also in line with developing a Uganda national renewable energy platform that brings together all renewable energy players. That's a discussion in the Ministry of Energy that we are also championing together with other partners in the sector. That is the best interaction we have with government, because at policy level, the government plays a huge role in giving us an enabling environment to thrive, to go in places where the government can't. And in so doing, we are a partner of government. There are places where the grid will never go, because the cost of delivering it there versus the returns at total disparities. So we as solar companies, especially decentralized power, mini grids as they call them, we are a partner of government to deliver power where the government is not. So I won't speak that Annual Energy is doing this with government, but I'll speak at a sector level that we are engaging with government. Okay.
Now you can tell our viewers I have quite about 10, actually tens of them, asking how, one, they can partner with you, but two, how they can, you know, get access to the service and where you can be found.
So number one, I'll start with where we can be found. Our office is located in Chisasi. The road is called Bahai Road. It's pretty easy to find off Bahai Road next to the police post, actually opposite the police post, Kaya police post. We are in the middle of Kampala. But the best way of finding us is through our telephone, our email, and our website. Our website, which is www.anuelenergy.com. Anuel is A-N-U-E-L, energy.com. Our telephone numbers, I'll give you one telephone number for now, okay, two. Our MTN contact is 0782 822 717. I'll repeat that, 0782 822 717. Our Airtel number, many people like to use Airtel, is 0759 822 719. I'm already seeing someone trying to confirm that the number is on. Yes, it is on. I've seen your beep come through. I don't know if it was a beep. One of the numbers is also on WhatsApp. Thank you for the quick check. Yes, I am live. I mentioned the website. Of course, we have some social media handles on Facebook at Annual Energy, on Twitter the same, at Annual Energy UG. You can also find us there. I'm seeing some calls coming through. Phone is in silent mode. I'll revert to you very good after the show.
Good. Now, before I bring in Charles,
Mr. Boji,
yes.
One last question they asked. Partnership. Yes, we are available for partnership. How can you partner with us? The key question is, what need do you have? And then we can discuss from there how we can meet your need. Great. Is it for community development? Is it for individual energy consumption? Thank you. Now,
I have, it's a best question, and I know it keeps coming up. The one of ironing. Someone is saying, solar energy has highly evolved in Uganda, but it's still one area where I've noticed it's not doing well. The issue of using solar for ironing. Please enlighten us.
Mr. Boji, what's the name of the...
He didn't leave the name, Anonymous.
Anonymous. Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous or Miss Anonymous, you can actually iron off solar.
Okay.
Okay? You can actually iron off solar. But I'd love to give you a very good example. Not all of us can drive a Mercedes, an Audi, a Lexus. Some of us will have to start at Toyota. Yeah. And where we are at in Uganda, given our pockets, we can afford a Toyota. There are people who are able to use solar to iron, especially also to steam. They have very deep pockets. My friend Anonymous, if you have deep pockets, we can make your solar iron for you.
I hear you.
It's as simple as that. But if you are still at Toyota level, let us drive our Toyota.
Yes. Well put. Charles, I don't know what your thoughts are up to that point.
All right.
But it's something I picked.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can expound on it, Charles.
Yeah.
You know, when he was submitting about partnerships,
yes,
you know, he mentioned the issue of value, attracting value.
Very true.
And I found that quite deep.
It is such a beautiful submission on the aspect of partnership. Many times when we look for partners, we want to benefit from the partnership and ignore the other party.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether this is an NGO, some charity or whatever. That charity has resources it has assembled from somewhere. And it wants to channel it through a particular partner. For it to choose you, it's looking for what can make them look good as they do their report back home. So partnerships that last, that hold the bondage, must deliver value on either side. Concentrate on making the other party really feel that the value you are delivering not only is discernible, but probably more pronounced than any other partner they would have chosen. You do that, they look for you. And see the old religious book that put it very directly. Thus, those who have will be given more. In other words, are you able to bring me some value, and I'll also give you more.
Yeah.
So please do not just go and harvest from the other side and just say, I have nothing really, but I think you come and pull me out.
There's even a song.
It's not wanted.
That, Empty Hands.
Yes.
It's a vernacular song.
Yes.
Yes. Empty Hands should actually be maintained by the owner or kept or retained. I don't know, just to directly translate. But I think that's well put.
Exactly. Exactly. So partnerships, if there's one thing Africans must begin to appreciate, even when it is business, two people doing a business, make sure your partner really looks good because of the partnership.
Great.
Otherwise, somebody would have gone alone. Why should I pick on another person? Yet I could have gone alone.
Absolutely.
There's something you're adding to me in that relationship.
What do you bring on the table?
Yes.
Frank, what are your last words?
First, I am really grateful to thousands of people out there. It's a little bit impossible to single out one, but I would mention two for clarity. One is the grace of God that gave me this energy, this vibrancy, this fearless heart that sustains me. And two is my wife that has believed in me from the word go. And then there are thousands of others, especially our customers that trust and believe in our products. I didn't mention that one of the quickest ways of getting finance is through your customers. They pay for the product, you make a margin, you grow your business. And so for the hundreds of customers out there, partners that have worked with us, friends that have bought from us, not out of pity, but because they needed a product, but also to support us, it was hugely appreciated. Two, I want to mention that for any aspiring entrepreneur out there, the journey might sound rough, but that fear is only in your mind. Get out there, try things out. We fear to try, and out of fearing to try, we never discover that we are actually capable. When we don't discover that we are capable, our confidence goes down. Grow your confidence by trying. That is what Mr. Chichi called action is equal to results and wisdom. Results could be positive or negative, but they will bring you immense wisdom.
Beautiful.
Finally,
Very good.
Thank you guys for hosting me. Mr. Boji, Mr. Chichi.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me on this show and for giving me an opportunity to air out these views.
Please, Charles, wrap this up.
My closing remarks are that where there is an entrepreneurial mindset, there is no sector that is off limits. The man was a psychologist. He is now speaking and commanding competence in a sector that is new in the country. It could have been selling beans, which is ordinary, but solar is not necessarily everybody's language. So that's the power of an enterprising mindset, and anybody can enter that space. But you must pay the price. Build those competencies, build the character, so that we trust you to remain in the space.
That's well put, Charles. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Frank. It's been the Business X-Ray, and I'm sure you've picked a thing or two out of today's interface. I've been your host, Charles Boji. Until next time, have a good evening and God bless.